Hey, what is up, guys? So I kind of want to talk about Cosmos. A lot of you guys have been asking me, hey, do you know the new Cosmos port coming out? Should I build Cosmos? Farmville's going down in price. You guys want to know my thoughts on it, so I'm here to deliver on that. So I actually went and recorded a bunch of Cosmo duels that I thought were relatively good, but unfortunately there's an error. Even on Salvation's really bad right now, but like every time you activate Tin Can's effect, I'll show you guys real quick. This is just against Magic Specters, and I kind of wanted to prove my point. Although in this duel in particular, I actually was able to win because he didn't have enough monsters. Now, the way that Cosmos will actually win is if you're playing against a pendulum deck and they don't happen to have a decent way to be able to stall and turtle up. So you'll see over here, if you activate Tin Can's effect, an error actually occurs. If you are playing this, though, it does work. It's just that on the replay, it doesn't work. But if you are playing this, I wanted to mention it real quick. The first effect when it asks you during the end phase is the effect if you want to reveal those 3 cards. The second effect, which you'll have to hit the right arrow on, it'll be all question marks. That's the effect to actually tribute. So keep that in mind as well if you're just happening to play. Again, I apologize that it's erroring out, but there's not anything I can do about that. But I can explain exactly why Cosmos aren't going to be the hottest deck in the upcoming format. So unless we get announcement of more support cards, or if they get some other crazy card to their archetype and have it at their disposal, this deck does not have any chance against Perform Pal, Perform Mages. It doesn't have a chance against Magician Pendulums. If you guys have been looking at the tournament reports from regionals and all these other tournaments, whether it's like Konami related or not, they're not doing so hot because the one problem that they lack is against Pendulums. Pendulums can just pendulum a bunch of monsters, throw them in defense mode, and they go ahead. And at that point, they're just going to be like, oh, okay, well, I attack this monster, I contribute and attack on another monster. At that point, they've used a lot of their resources. They actually excel against decks that can't just throw up a bunch of defense. So if they're able to go Regeki and attack. The only way I see this deck really doing well is if you're able to completely clear your opponent's pendulum, like their board, basically just get rid of all their monsters. The problem is still with that is because of damage juggler. If they happen to have one damage juggler, you're out of luck. Or if they happen to have like one trap card, they like storing reinforce, they bounce back your stuff, which is also a very popular card. They just lack that ability to deal with things that can just get rid of their one monster, because the way the deck works is it just gets out one monster. I know people were talking about this card, Kaiser Coliseum. So it's if there's one or more monsters that you control, whoever controls the Kaiser Coliseum, your opponent can't have multiple monsters. Therefore, oh, you can't make this card. The only problem with that is Eccentric Archfiend is a card. Also, Pendulums, they can search out like whatever they want at like whatever time, and they can just get rid of Kaiser Coliseum, or they can maybe just get rid of your one monster. Usually you're going to just have that one like Dark Destroyer, you can maybe have Dark Eclipser, whatever monster that you have out, they're just going to go ahead and Ignister it, and that's after they either use the Magician to discard one card to pop Kaiser Coliseum, or they can Eccentric Archfiend and also get rid of your Kaiser Coliseum. So unless you have 2 of these, it's just really not looking too good for you, because they're able to get rid of one really easy. Another thing, I know this is like side deck discussion, but I want to talk about like everything, because like I said, some of you guys want to know if you should build this. Now, I feel like Imperial Iron Wall absolutely destroys Cosmos. I mean, you could say that with any deck. That you can be like, oh, that one card, Anti-Spell Fragrance, completely destroys Pendulums. Very valid point. But people are already side decking this card against, Infernoids and stuff like that. So you're gonna have to watch out for this card. This card completely will destroy you. If they don't have a quick access to destroying this, they can't really function at all. It's just a bad time overall for them. I know some of them do side deck the Monarch Storm Fort to get rid of stuff. Also, another thing that people have been doing to actually counter them is just run Kaijus in the side deck, because again, Cosmos is a deck where it usually only has one monster, and if they're just going to be like, oh, tribute your one monster, they can just OTK you, they can bounce this card back, they can Ignister it, and then you're pretty much out of luck. You basically lose the game because you only usually have, again, one monster. Now, with the new support, yes, Tin Can is cool, and so is Sword Troopers. I feel like if you can Levier, you can, you can go Cosmos Sword Troopers, get back, pay 1,000 life points, a Psychic type Cosmo monster, so basically all the small ones, special summon it. If this card was level 4, you'd have easy access to, going for level 4 monsters, or rank 4s, Castell 101, there's a lot of great rank 4s. Rank 4s are pretty much like the best ones right now in the game, and they have been for quite some time. Although, like, at one point, rank 7s were really good. But I still feel like Castell is just one of the stronger cards right now in the game. The only option you really have is maybe go for Levy or get back a Farm Girl and then maybe try to continue off your combo. But for the most part, I just feel like they still have the same problem as they only have one monster on board. You get rid of that one monster, okay? You basically lose against pendulums. And with this card coming out in the TCG, this card technically doesn't come out till March unless there's going to be something else that releases earlier that I'm unaware of. It comes out in a manga, by the way. But S39 Utopia, any rank 4 deck can just make this. And I think a lot of people will just be running this card in general because it lets you get over pretty much everything in the game because it's 5,000 and your opponent can't activate anything until the end of the damage step. So therefore you can get rid of basically every monster that they have. You just attack and you can get rid of Dark Destroyer, you can get rid of Dark Eclipser. Again, I feel like their support just isn't strong enough. It's great, but it's just not good enough, and that's the problem with this deck. Because also, I had another problem with Dark Eclipser. I wish he also special summoned or added the card, because sometimes you go for Dark Eclipser, and then your opponent's like, oh, okay, I get rid of your Dark Eclipser, and then you just get OTK'd. Like, you need that ability to reoccur the monsters, but overall, you're losing to essentially the same thing. It's usually to the Ignister, or heck, even Magispectors have this card coming out, which is Magispector Sonic. If you guys haven't seen this card, it's you target one Magispector monster you control until the end of this turn. Its attack and defense become doubled. Its current attack, and that's not original, it's current attack, but any battle damage your opponent takes is half. It's pretty much irrelevant, especially if they only happen to have one monster on board. They can just deal with like their the other like Dark Destroyer or the Dark Eclipse are much easier if they get more support announced. Yeah, of course this could totally change. You can totally disregard this video, but a lot of you guys have been asking me now if you should build it, and I feel like it's just going to get a little bit cheaper and cheaper, especially because there's no other announcements of other cards as of right now. Of course, again, if you're watching this video later, because I love it when people were like, you said Performa Pals sucked. Okay, when they first came out, yes, they were terrible. No one played them. Like, their best card was the Snake card, the Whip Snake that could, like, it was like Gale, I think. Its effect is like half something. But, you know, obviously things get support, and that completely changes things. But this card over here, if this was like a quick play spell card, we're looking at a much better card. Let me talk about like what else they could have done with this archetype, because I felt like they really just needed to give it the ability to stop spell cards. Going back to like this card over here, which we'll briefly read. So it can't be targeted by opponent's card effects during either player's turn. When a trap card is activated, you can banish a Cosmo monster from your graveyard. Negate the activation, and if you destroy that card. If this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Add one level 8 or lower Cosmo monster from your deck to your hand. So it searches out pretty much everything in the entire, well, all your monsters as of right now. But it adds it to your hand instead of special summoning. That's kind of a problem. But the main problem with this card is it negates traps. Like, you know, we're going into pendulums, right? That doesn't really support it. Like, if this negated a spell card, and it could banish any Cosmo card, I mean, pretty much, or if it could, like, return something that was banished, I don't know, it really just needed to negate spell cards, and if it could negate spell cards, it'd be so much better. Because the way I see this deck right now is the only way you're going to be beating pendulums is if they open up terribly bad and you open up, like, relatively good. Because even with Tin Can's effect to potentially search this card, you need to set it immediately. I feel like because there's not the option to search this card, like, immediately. Like, if they had, like, a card that would just search any Cosmo card. I know the field spell, technically, you can draw cards, but they need a card where it's just, like, you search Cosmojo instantly. Like, if you summon this card, you could add any, like, it needs to be just a Cosmo monster that searches out a Cosmo spell and trap, and it has, like, you know, really bad attack and defense, and all it does is tribute itself for, like, another one. Because what this deck lacks is the ability to stop Ignister. Like, if you don't have this card, all that happens is they're just going to go ahead and make this. And then you're just going to get bounced back, and then you basically lose the game because this effect doesn't target. Or, like, you know, any rank 4 deck can just make this, and they just attack your Dark Eclipser or your Dark Destroyer. You can't activate any of the effects, and then you basically lose because they can have full ability to swarm, and on top of that, again, you don't usually have too much back row. Now, with this card, yes, it's okay, and it's really cool that it doesn't target. And it also procs your effect of the Cosmo. But the only problem with, like, as of right now, is that the card that you get out usually is going to be the, you have, what is it, the not Slip Rider, the Forerunner. So the Forerunner still gets run over by this. It's by 50, but it's still, like, it hurts. And then they can just notice it after that, because Azneyes is going to be coming out. So Again, I just don't feel like the deck has enough like good cards. And like speaking of like other like random stuff, a lot of people were side decking the heavy cavalry of the or Heavy Knight of the Flame. I thought this was an interesting card that people were side decking against Cosmo because you just pendulum it and then just like, you know, it's a Gemini, you normal summon it. So at the start of damage step, if this card attacks a special monster, you get to banish it. I feel like there's just too many cards, and you can use Warrior Lady, like the Dark Destroyer. There's just too many easy outs to a deck that only has one monster, and I feel like unless they get some crazy support to like completely stop pendulums, you're just not gonna have a good time. So overall, my thoughts in a nutshell are: I don't think that they're an amazing deck against like other decks. Like if you play this deck against like Essentials, you can just like OTK that deck like nothing. If they don't, well, they're not gonna have any monsters on board. So like you have free roam from Farm Girl, attack once and game over. They're gonna activate something. Oh, just chain, you know, activate effect, dodge it. But against like the high tier, I just don't feel like this deck can be that great. And I know that there's an FTK with this. I'll link it in the description box after I get the video uploaded, but there is a way to FTK in Cosmo. It's not very conventional, but you can do it, so it's kind of cool. But I just feel like their support is just not strong enough. What they really needed was if Sword Trooper was level 4, so you can go into rank 4s, that would be excellent. Oh, I didn't really talk about Delta Shuttle, so let me talk about Delta Shuttle a bit. At one point, I was trying out the deck, and I never brought up this guy. But it's once per turn you can send a Cosmo monster from your deck to the graveyard. Then you get to target one face-up monster in the field. It loses attack and defense equal to the sent monster's level times 100. If this card is destroyed by battle by card effect, you to banish it and then special summon the level 4 lower. I never really got this card out, but it has its use. What I really liked with this card was being able to reduce something, and then you could just go ahead and summon Farm Girl. Farm Girl gets the attack damage, and it's cool. Like they tried to make it a little bit better, but I feel like Dark Eclipser should have negated spells. This card, maybe if it was like a continuous, like once per turn, you can destroy a Cosmo card, then banish, like, I don't know if you guys have seen that Psyframe card. I think it's Psyframe Overlord. Psyframe, oh, is it Psy-Frame Overload? Yes, this card over here, if it was like continuous, or if there was a card that you could normal summon and search it out, because again, or like if this card could just like negate pendulums, or just like it could change your opponent's pendulum scale or something like that. Like this is the boss monster, make it stop, you know, something. Or maybe heck, if Delta Shuttle did something against like spells, we need something that either destroys the pendulum scales. I know that there's Typhoon, there's that other, I think it's like Twin Twister or something like that, where you discard one card and you get to pop 2. That could be pretty cool as well, but I feel like this card needed more utility. Cosmojo needed like a banish effect, that you can banish Cosmojo from the graveyard to maybe like destroy like two face-up spell and trap cards your opponent controls, like specifically against pendulums, because this was like our hope for the people that hated Pendulum, like they didn't like the mechanic. Cosmos was the hope for them. They're like, oh, you know, I can still play Cosmos. It completely doesn't even use the extra deck, and you have access to, you know, winning games. But the deck just doesn't have any chance. That's my thoughts on it. So let me know, guys, if you disagree with me. Let me know why, perhaps. But I just feel like Pendulum is just going to overwhelm it, and the tournament reports are already showing, and pretty much everyone is on that Magician hype. And for whatever reason, Dark Destroyer is still a very expensive card. So if you guys still have them, like, you have your opportunity to sell the stuff now. Again, if there's more support that is announced in the future, they could go back up in price, and they could be a competitive deck. But I just feel like, as of right now, you have no chance. Oh, cool thing, though, is you can 1-for-1 this card, just as a heads up. I liked it. Like, the only way you're going to be winning in this deck is literally if the Pendulum player... well, first off, if you're playing against Pepe, you'll lose. If you're playing against Ariadne and Pepe, you have, like, almost no chance. But if you're just playing against, like, the Magician Perform Pal deck, if you can Dark Hole, you still have a chance. Dark Hole, Raigeki them, and you have to get that OTK in as quickly as possible, because if you don't, you usually only have one monster, and then they just go, okay, I'll make that Ignister, bounce it back, attack, and that will be game. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Will Smith. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know also what you think that they need. I think that this should have been continuous. It should have had like the once per turn you can destroy a card, and then also once it's in your graveyard you get to banish it and you get to destroy 2, like once per turn during either player's turn. It needed like some crazy effect to make the deck like really good. But anyways, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Been your boy Will Smith, signing out for reals.